There's a display case in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. Inside it sits a broken piece of carved limestone, about the size of a grapefruit. Catalog number E, 3332. Most people walk right past it. It's labeled as a ceremonial macehead, pulled out of a temple pit in southern Egypt more than a century ago. But hidden inside it is something that shouldn't exist. Carved into the stone is a king. He wears the white crown of Upper Egypt. He holds a farmer's hoe, performing a royal founding ritual. Attendants bow. Standards fly above his head. Everything about this image says Pharaoh. There's just one problem. According to the official history of Egypt, the history printed in every textbook and mounted on every museum wall, the first pharaoh was a man named Narmer, who unified the Nile Valley around 3100 BC. This king is not Narmer. Beside his face are two small symbols, a rosette and a scorpion. His name appears in no king list. His reign appears in no chronicle. A fully equipped pharaoh, ruling before the first pharaoh was supposed to exist. Not a myth, not a metaphor. A carved, cataloged, physical object sitting in plain sight, pointing to a chapter of Egyptian history that was quietly written out of the story. If you want to follow this investigation to the end, take 1 second to subscribe, because the evidence in this case is still sitting under the sand, and almost nobody is talking about it. The mace head was excavated in 1898 by James Quibell at Hierakonpolis, the ancient city of Nekhen, inside a cache archaeologists call the main deposit. It came out of the ground alongside one of the most famous artifacts on Earth, the Narmer palette, the object used to crown Narmer as Egypt's first king. The palette went on to define a century of Egyptology. The mace head was labeled scorpion, possibly a local chieftain, and set aside. For decades, scholars dismissed it as symbolic, a tribal leader, a regional strongman, a decorative fiction. But that explanation has a problem. The Egyptians themselves said otherwise. Their own records insist that kings ruled the Nile before the first dynasty ever began. And those records contain 3 clues that were staring at us the entire time. The first clue is carved into a slab of black basalt known as the Palermo Stone, a royal annal from around 2400 BC. Its top register lists a sequence of rulers who reigned before the first dynasty, each one wearing the red crown. Mainstream scholars called them legendary filler, names invented to pad out the past. But here's where it gets strange. In the 1890s, excavators at Nakada recovered a broken pot fired around 3500 BC, 4 centuries before Narmer, and painted on its surface is the red crown. Not a similar crown, not an early prototype. The same crown with the same curled wire projection that pharaohs would wear for the next 3,000 years. Not similar, not inspired by it, the same. Which means the institution of kingship, with its exact regalia, already existed centuries before Egypt's official history begins. The second clue sits in a tattered papyrus in Turin, the Royal Canon, Egypt's own master king list. Before it names the human pharaohs, it records a line of rulers called the Shemsu Hor, the followers of Horus, said to have reigned for more than 13,000 years. Scholars filed them under mythology, demigods, spirits, a poetic prelude. But read the phrase like an archivist instead of a poet. Horus was not a generic god. Horus was the royal falcon, the emblem of kingship itself. Every early king wrote his name inside a seraph crowned by that exact falcon. Followers of Horus isn't a description of spirits. It reads like a dynastic title, a line of Horus kings preserved in memory long after their names were lost. Not gods. A dynasty. The third clue is the scorpion itself. That same sign appears scratched and painted on jars and tags scattered across late predynastic Egypt. Egyptologists called it a protective fetish, a good luck symbol. But the scorpion keeps appearing in one very specific context. on containers of valuable goods next to number signs and commodity marks. That is not decoration. That is ownership. That is administration. They weren't guessing. They were recording. And then modern science found something that changed everything. In 1988, a German Archaeological Institute team led by Günter Dreyer was excavating Cemetery U at Abydos, in the desert plateau called el Kaab, the mother of pots. Beneath the sand they uncovered tomb UJ 12 mud brick chambers, roughly 9.1 by 7.3 meters, built like a miniature royal palace. Radiocarbon dating placed it at around 3,320 BC, nearly 2 full centuries before Narmer. Inside, they found an ivory scepter carved in the shape of the Hekakrook, the exact emblem of rule that Tutankhamun would be buried clutching 2,000 years later. They found the remains of roughly 700 wine jars, an estimated 4,500 liters. Residue analysis by biomolecular archaeologist Patrick McGovern confirmed tartaric acid and terebinth resin, real wine imported from the hills of the southern Levant, hundreds of kilometers away, meaning organized international trade. And they found nearly 200 small tags of bone and ivory, each drilled with a hole for attachment, each carved with signs that read phonetically. Writing. Among the oldest ever found in Egypt, old enough to rival the earliest tablets of Mesopotamia. And on jar after jar, one sign kept repeating, a scorpion. Dreyer concluded that Tomb Uj belonged to a king, Scorpion I, ruling a wealthy, literate, tax-collecting state generations before Egypt officially had kings. Then the trail widened. In 1995, John and Deborah Darnell's Theban Desert Road Survey found a tableau carved into the rock at Gebel Tayouti on an ancient caravan road northwest of Luxor, a scorpion ruler's victory scene. A prisoner, led by a falcon, what may be the oldest historical record on the planet. And in 2012, French Egyptologist Pierre Tallet documented rock inscriptions at Wadi Ameira in the Sinai, far across the Red Sea Desert, naming pre-Narmer kings, including a ruler called Iri-Hor, a king so early that textbooks long denied he existed. One inscription even connects him to Memphis. The city Narmer's successors supposedly founded was apparently already standing. So what happened to all of this? Tomb Uj was excavated. It was documented. And then it was reburied. The chambers sit under the sand at el Kaab today, in a restricted zone closed to visitors. Most of the bone labels sit in storage, published mainly in German excavation volumes, that almost no one outside a small circle has read. Dreyer's claim that the tags represent true writing was challenged, sidelined, and left unresolved. And through all of it, the official narrative never moved. Go to Egypt today, open the guidebook, stand in the museum. The story still begins with Narmer, the first pharaoh, around 3,100 BC. The men buried at Abydos before him, Scorpion, Iri-Hor, Ka, and the unnamed rulers beneath Cemetery U, remain a footnote a tourist will never hear. Now, does this prove the most extreme version of the story? A hidden civilization? A deliberate cover-up reaching back millennia? Probably not. But that doesn't make the discovery ordinary. The grounded explanation is stunning on its own. Egyptologists now quietly speak of a Dynasty Zero, a line of powerful kings who ruled from Abydos for perhaps 200 years before unification, who commanded trade routes to Canaan, waged wars along the Nile, and may have developed writing not for poetry or prayer, but for accounting, for power. It means Egypt wasn't unified in a single heroic moment by a single heroic man. It was assembled slowly and violently by rulers whose names were deleted from the record their successors wrote. History belongs to the winner, and Narmer's dynasty won. And if that's true, it means our history is missing a chapter, the first chapter, It means the world's most famous civilization is older than its own official memory. It means writing may have been born twice, independently, on two rivers, or born first, on the Nile. And it raises a question no one has answered. If the Turin Canon's mythical kings were compressed memories of real rulers, how far back does the line actually go? Cemetery U holds hundreds of graves older than Tomb U, J, stretching back generation after generation into the 4th millennium BC. Most have never been fully excavated. Somewhere under that plateau may lie the tomb of the first man who ever called himself King of Egypt, and we do not know his name. Tonight, the plateau at el Kaab sits silent under the desert sky, broken potsherds crunching over sealed chambers no tourist will ever see. And in Oxford, under museum glass, a limestone macehead shows a nameless king founding a kingdom 2 centuries too early, while the crowds file past it toward the gift shop. It's still there, still cataloged, still ignored. The evidence was never destroyed. It was simply left where no one would look. If this investigation changed the way you see ancient Egypt, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And then watch the video on your screen right now about another discovery the official record can't explain. Because the first king of Egypt is still down there, and someone new